Hi, Terry here, and welcome to Times Gone Tech. Today we're going to start part 4 of the Hockenbush build, and that means we're going to finish up the barrel. And I'm going to do a few things to it, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hone the bore. And when I put my little finger down in there, it's pretty smooth. I mean, it's pretty good. The rifle shop did a good job on it, but I can feel very, very, very small machine marks in there, and I want to remove those, and I want to polish the bore up really good because the smooth, shiny, polished bore fouls more slowly and also generates more muzzle velocity, which means more range and greater accuracy. And honing a new barrel is actually a good idea for even a rifle barrel because the process of cutting the grooves in the barrel itself can leave little micro burrs and things that can interfere with the bullet's trajectory and things like muzzle velocity and range and accuracy. So let's get started on this. So to get started on this, I'm going to bed the barrel down in my bench vise between this protective cloth so it doesn't get damaged. And then I'm going to use my drill and this 12 gauge shotgun barrel bore. And this is a flexible bore. It's a silicon carbide tip. Got it from Amazon Prime. And I'm going to use that in a little boring fluid. Yeah, it's flexible. Going to take a little honing fluid, squirt in there. And just work it down like this. Oh yeah, that's got it. That is smooth. All right, now I'm going to run a couple of clean patches down that, and I'll be right back. Okay, and we are back, and this barrel has been honed very nicely, very smooth. Okay, so now the next thing that I'm going to do is turn the camera off and get set up, and I'm going to crown the muzzle. Okay, I'm set up and ready to do it. Now, we don't know exactly when uh, gun barrels began to be crowned. Crowning is just grinding a little bit of a bevel right around the outer edge here of the muzzle. We know it was being done by the late 19th century. Might have been being done before then. I have yet to find a good photograph of an original 18th century firearm that had a crowned muzzle, though. So we know it was done by then, probably not before, um, probably because black powder may not generate the muzzle velocities high enough to actually need it, may not make any noticeable difference. So whenever smokeless powder came out with the higher muzzle velocities, then crowning became an obvious advantage. But I'm going to do it to this Hockenbush anyway, just because it looks cool. And I'm going to start out with this round diamond tipped grindstone, Amazon Prime, 1 3/16 inch diameter. little bit more. I think that's got it. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, and here's what we got. You can see it. You see that just that little bit of bevel here right around the inside. See that? Right on the muzzle. Okay, I am back and got one thing left to do before I blew it and call it done. I'm going to decorate the muzzle up here just a little bit. And I'm not going to get real crazy with it. In fact, I am going to get some glasses on though so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, got my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to take this center punch and I'm going to line this up with the touch hole down here, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm not going to get too crazy with it. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the opposite side. And now I'm going to go side to side. And again, I'm just eyeballing it in. And over here. Then I've got to cut these quarters in half and put in 8 more, or 4 more actually, for a total of 8. Oops, that's all right. All right, not bad. Now, since I drove that punch down in there, all that metal has to go somewhere. So I'm going to take some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to sand that down nice and smooth. Now, let's take it down just a little bit more. And this just gives it a little bit of a individuality, a little uniqueness to it. It could stand out a little from the others. Not that you're ever likely to run into a lot of different Hakenbüche out on the firing range, but if you do, everyone will notice yours a little better, a little different than theirs. And there's what it looks like. Honed, crowned, and dressed up just a little bit, just to make it a little different. So now I'm going to sand a little bit of rust. You can see there's a little bit of corrosion here and there on it from where I've been handling it. So I'm going to sand that down a little bit and then get it blued and call it done. And while I'm working on this, have you ever wondered where the word gun originated. I mean, why gun in English? There's no other language, European language, that has a word similar to gun. And of course, there is no English language as such. I mean, not historically anyway. English is a mixture of, well, Latin, Greek, French, German, Swedish, Norwegian, little Celtic thrown in there, or Celtic for good measure. So why gun? Well, as it turns out, there's actually a very good explanation for that. It all started with a woman named Gunhildra who lived in Norway back in the early 10th century. And I think you can see already where this is going. Gunhildra was, well, she was married to Eric Bloodaxe, King of Norway, for one. And to put it politely, she was a bit of a raging homicidal psychopath, to be honest about it. She even tried to kill Eric a couple of times, which apparently he adored her even more for. Gotta love those Vikings, huh? But he did learn early on not to turn his back on her. She was a bit problematic for him. In fact, good old Gunhildra took her killing so seriously and so enthusiastically that her name became a verb used to mean to kill with fire in the eyes. Yeah. In fact, she was so enthusiastic with her killing that if you met somebody and you were to ask him, hey, whatever happened to that guy, Ivar Crooked Nose, you used to hang around with? And he said, well, Ivar met Gunhildra. You knew exactly what he meant. He hadn't just been killed, he had been over-killed. And of course, then when the Vikings immigrated to Britain, began moving into what they called the Danelaw, they took their language and culture with them. Only by then, Gunhildra had been shortened to Gunhild. And then when firearms were introduced in the 1300s, it just seemed natural to make the connection between the firearms and good old Gunhildra by the descendants of those immigrants. But by then, the term had been shortened to Gunna. So Gunhildra became Gunhild, became Gunna. And that's where we have the medieval hand to Gunna. That's where that came from. And eventually it just became gun. Now, I don't know if any of that is really true or not, but it's a good story. And the semblance between Gunhildra and gun, to me, just seems a bit too coincidental. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Gunhildra was a real person. She really lived in Norway in the early 10th century. She was a homicidal psychopath. Her name did come to mean to kill with fire in the eyes, and now we have fire in the eye, gunners coming around. So it just seems a little too coincidental to me. So that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. Now, the thing about this bluing is I'm not giving it a professional look. I'm not trying to make it look professional. I'm trying to make it look old, like it's been used a lot. And I think I'm succeeding. Whether that was my intent or not, that's what it's coming out, starting to look like. So it's a good thing that that's what I wanted. And I think that's going to do it. And now I'm going to do what I call seasoning. And I'm going to take some of this Canada spray gun oil. This is just a generic lubricant oil. And I'm just going to spray it on it. Spray a little down the barrel. And I'm just going to let that soak. Let that soak for a while, then I'll come back and wipe it down, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so here it is, finished up. Ready to put back in the gun stock. And then I've got one step left to do, and that is to put the hold downs on, lock this onto the stock for good. I've already finished the stock. Show you that when I get the barrel put into it. And yeah, attach the serpentine, and it's ready to shoot. I like how that muzzle turned out. That looks pretty cool. What do you think? Yeah. All right. Stick around for the final part when we get this thing out back and get to shoot it. Hey.